911, where's your emergency?
Yeah, I'm on the beach in Biloxi, and my apartment is coming apart.
Okay.
About 4 foot of water's underneath me. I'm on
Okay.
the second floor.
Right now, there's nothing that we can do as far as coming to rescue you. 911.
I need help. Try to send help ASAP because we have a lot of people over here.
No emergency personnel can be on the road. Okay? That's why there was a mandatory evacuation.
Biloxi Police and Fire. I just want to let you know that me and Mama are going to die. We're trapped in our house and it's falling apart.
Your house is falling apart?
Yes.
Are y'all in the attic?
Yeah. We cannot get to the roof. I know there's things I can do. I just want to let you know.
No emergency personnel can be on the
I
road.
just want to let you know that me and Mama are going to die.
Right now, there's nothing that we can do. Nothing that we can do. Nothing that we can do.
Man, that's tough. You can't listen to those 911 recordings without feeling the gut-wrenching pain and fear and helplessness these people were experiencing when disaster struck, and all they could do was watch their world come crumbling down around them. I'm Pastor Kurt Klaus from Child of God Lutheran Church and School in St. Peters, Missouri. In this Men's Network Bible study, we'll be examining disasters and the powerful impact they have on our lives. No matter what kind of disaster strikes, it always changes your life, and it changes it drastically. You wake up in the morning and you're confident that your day is going to go according to routine, just like every other day. And then, bam, disaster strikes out of nowhere. Everything is totally out of control, and there's nothing guys hate more than losing control. We're hardwired to want to fix problems, put stuff back in order. But in a disaster, there's not a whole lot of stuff you can fix, and no quick, easy way to get your life back in order either. We can talk about all kinds of disasters, but we're going to focus on 3 distinct kinds of disasters in this Bible study. Each one presents its own unique questions and problems to deal with. First, there's the well-known natural disaster. Then there's the unnatural disaster caused by other people's disastrous actions. And finally, the very personal disasters we cause by the stupid stuff we do. In this session, we'll talk about natural disasters, the kind of things you see on television or sometimes in your own front yard. You know, like hurricanes, tornadoes, forest fires, mudslides, flooding, and also those personal disasters like losing your job, the death of a wife or child, or learning you have cancer. When you can't blame yourself or another person, who do you blame? I mean, when airlines cancel flights because of natural disasters, they won't take the blame. When asked why they won't refund tickets or put people up in hotels, they say, and get this, it was an act of God. Insurance companies do the same thing. Isn't it pretty convenient to blame God when most of the world doesn't want to give God credit for anything? But the truth is, when disasters strike and there's no one else to blame, even Christians often end up looking at God. On August 24th, 1992, Evelio Cruz happened to be living in the path of Hurricane Andrew, the 4th strongest Category 5 hurricane to make landfall in the U.S. How did he feel about God when his life and home were completely torn apart?
It seemed that he'd forgotten and didn't care about us at the time. After you look around, you see all the destruction, and you just wonder, how can this be happening? Why? That's the only thing that's in your mind at the time, because it was tempting to be angry with God. Definitely was. And sometimes I had to even fight with my own thoughts to see if I was going to believe that God was purposely hurting us or it was just for a reason.
All too often, when a man is the victim of a natural disaster, all his emotions just get shoved aside. There's this need to survive and an overwhelming need to do something.
It was like you didn't know where to start. And it was a very emptiness inside because you just don't know where. You know, it's like if you tell a little kid to pick up the toys, you wouldn't know where to start. There was not a moment that you didn't sit down. If there was not looking for firewood to make, a little outside kitchen to, or if not that, trying to find decent clothes for the kids to wear or what you're going to eat. There was lines that you had to form for ice.
The time came when those who were left gathered at the local church.
We had our first gathering, and what Pastor did was to have us each stand up and express our feelings. And he actually wanted us to cry, to get that anxiety out and that pressure, and it worked. It really did, and from there on, things were looking a little bit different, at least inside of our hearts, where the pressure was relieved and we were able to function calmly. What I've learned through this time is that God gives and he takes away, but yet God is with us day in and day out. And if we don't know that, we don't take that time to be still and know that he's God, things will be easier. So that's my advice to those who are suffering now, is to just be still. Literally be still, sit down. Take a few moments to think, and then ask God, what you're going to do when you get up out of that chair.
When natural disasters strike, guys like to find someone to blame, or at least try to figure out what God was thinking. We would like to think that God punishes bad people and rewards good people. It's natural to think it's that simple. But that's just not the way it is. For instance, when Katrina hit, there were some who said it was because of the sin of Mardi Gras in Bourbon Street in New Orleans. But if that was the case, why was the damage on Bourbon Street minimal? And why did places like Waveland, Mississippi, look like a lumberyard exploded? Guys want to know why. But maybe what we ought to be asking is, what for? Thinking about the reason why is natural. But God doesn't give us all the answers. But he does tell us that my ways are not your ways, and my thoughts are not your thoughts. Since we can't possibly understand all of God's reasons, he points us instead to Jesus' cross and empty tomb, so that you can see that God has a way of bringing good out of the worst disasters. He reminds us that he loves us so much, he gave his only son to die for us, and raised him again to assure us that he will raise us up on the last day to live with him forever. If he loved us enough to make that sacrifice, he has a perfect reason for permitting disaster to strike us. And he will be there to control it, see us through it, and bring good out of it. Let's go to the discussion guide to talk about how we can face natural disasters.